myself out. Hey, everybody. All right. So, last week we talked a little bit about authenticity. And I want to remind you, I'm just following the guide of this wonderful book called The ABCs of Self-Love by Godfred. And I meant to put her information in the description last week. I'll do it this week. So, that was A. Now we're on B. Boundaries. And you know what's so funny? It's like, as I go through this book and read, situations come up in life that I can speak to about it. So this one is about knowing where to draw a line in your life with people, places, things, events, situations, whatever, right? It's about knowing yourself, which a lot of us don't know ourselves until we become elderly like me. So as a result of you not knowing yourself, you may not know where to draw the line when dealing with people. Or you might draw a line where you don't have to when dealing with people, right? And what I've learned is that everyone is not alike. Everyone has different needs, different wants, different desires and goals and dreams and visions. And you have to act accordingly, which means you have to treat people the way they want to be treated and not cross lines when boundaries are clearly there. Clear boundaries to me are things like age, skin color, right? You know not to go out here and call a black person a nigga, right? Especially if you're a certain color. You know not to treat elders disrespectfully because they're older than you and they've walked the path way longer than you have. So there's certain boundaries we just know we should not cross. And then there are ones that we're just completely ignorant of because we're humans and we're not paying attention to everything going around us. And there's a lot going on around us and we just don't have the energy to deal with it. So one of the things I want to remind people is that with boundaries is that no is a whole sentence. So if a person tells you no, that's it. They do not have to say more. That is it. That is acceptable, right? But it implies that I think saying no without any explanation is kind of rough for us because it's a strong, bold boundary, right? It's strong, it's forceful, it's bold. No matter how you say it. You could say no, no matter how you say it, you don't want to hear the word, right? But you're going to hear it from a person who understands what their boundaries are. So I wrote some notes down. So that's what I'm reading. It says, so I said, but it can be hurtful for the person hearing the no. They either end up feeling bad, sad, or angry because they didn't get the response that they expected to get, right? That's what boundaries do. They back you up. They make you stand behind the line. Saying no in this era of time requires a lot of confidence, right? I don't mean to move to a C word, but boundaries require confidence. It requires knowing about your feelings and checking in with your body and seeing how you feel when you respond or when you set up your boundaries with people, places, and things and events and situations. So that's why they're so important, right? And when you set your boundaries, ensure that you're doing it from a place that is clear. You're crystal clear in what you're saying. That is understood, that the communication is clear, especially in this time that we have, this age of Aquarius, right? Communication is key. I'm sitting outside and I'm getting cold. I'm on the roof of my building. It's getting cold. It was a nice day in DC. It's getting chilly. I'm going to walk inside and continue this. But I even had an incident over the weekend. And I don't know if this speaks to this, but I will say that this is going to sound wild because it's going to sound braggadocious, and I'm not. But I'm a young looking person. I'm 58 years old. I have no problem telling you that because I feel good about myself. And I'm 58 years old. And I have, I guess, what people call a younger looking 58 facial features or whatever, skin, whatever. So I think some young people, there's a line, right? I'm a friendly person. I allow a lot of things to slide because I get that life is not, it's just not set up the way we expect, right? People are going to do really wild stuff. I've done wild stuff and probably still will do wild stuff, right? But I think sometimes, so in my instance, I have to create a boundary when it comes down to dealing with people who are younger than me. Now they may be adults, but they're younger than me. So a lot of times I have to remind them of how old I am and my where I sit, like where I stand, my status, right? I'm considered an elder. And as an elder, you expect young people to carry you in a way that they would carry their grandmother, right? Or someone older than them with wisdom. And what I'm coming to understand is because I have not set boundaries early on, some of the young people in my life tend to think that they can just overlook my age and treat me like I'm one of their friends or girlfriends, or they don't hold me in high regard or high respect as they do other elders within my community. So now I have to step back and create boundaries. And more importantly, I have to do it with confidence and not care about the feelings of the person who's receiving my boundary. And that's hard for me to do because I care so much about people, right? I care about people. I care about how they feel, how they think, what they doing. But at this age in my life, I have to release the caring part a little bit in order to establish the boundary. And this is a reestablished boundary because it never was a boundary. So now I have to reestablish something that was never there. And in order to do that, I gotta not care what they think or what they feel about my boundary because it's mine. All of that with love. Still with love, I gotta do all of that, right? So that's some of the things I faced. And in her book, she says, practice setting your boundaries. So she says, look at some of the categories in your life, like your friends, your family, love, work, play, and start setting boundaries, right? Like for work, she gives an example of don't check your work emails after 7 p.m. I'm never going to do that. So she doesn't. For families, saying yes purely out of obligation. Don't do that no more. Say no. For friends, don't engage with negative or toxic people who bring you down. No matter how much you love them, don't do it. Allow them to be with themselves until they get their head out their ass, I guess, in other words, right? They said for your love life, don't do important conversations via text. Actually talk to the person face to face, right? Or maybe the phone, I don't know. But what it's saying is find some ways to love yourself by setting boundaries, basically. And remember, no is a whole ass sentence. All right, everybody. That's it for me. Because I got to go back to work. But I just wanted to come upstairs and talk to y'all about the ABCs of self-love and boundaries. Next week, we'll move on to the letter C and talk about something else. Ooh, it's 4 of them. 4 C's next week. So we'll see what that's about. Anyway, be happy, be light, be love. Namaste. Nisilia.